All right, welcome everyone. We are having an interview here with members of Unity CR of Cedar Rapids and their lived experiences here in the time that they've been part of this community. And the purpose of this interview, of this conversation really, is just to create an oral history of what segments of our 100-year history in Cedar Rapids we can, and what it was like at different stages in our development and growth. So, to kick things off, I would like, we're going to start with Vern on the end and come towards me. I'd like everybody just to introduce who they are and then how long they've been part of Unity Center of Cedar Rapids.
How long?
I can remember that.
How long have you been a part of it? Since 1981.
Yeah, 81.
So we started coming to Pythian Hall before we had this building. And since 1981, how many years is that? Then we came to the building, and then we've been here all this time.
Yeah. So, just like to, again, record the names.
Vern and Audrey Eggleston.
Perfect. 43 years.
43 years, that sounds about right.
And then the name of the hall that was before this was, you said, was?
It was the Pythian Hall.
Pythian Hall.
And we met there on Sundays. And then I think in 83 or 84, we built this building. Let's see.
83, I believe.
83, we came to this building.
Excellent.
And,
We may come back to what was the first portion of this building and how the building is changed and expanded, but I appreciate it.
okay.
Nancy?
Yeah, I'm Nancy Andreessen, and I was introduced to Unity through my parents, Harold and Jan Armentrout. They were doing some spiritual seeking back in the 70s, and they heard Mabel Swanson, who was the Unity minister at the time, on the radio. And she always closed off with, let's keep unity in our community, and decided to give it a try. So we used to go to the services for the Unity Center then, which was in an old Victorian house in downtown Cedar Rapids.
Wow.
And then my parents stayed with it. I went off to college and was doing other things, but they were at the Knights of Pythias Hall as well. And then when they built the building, had been here and stayed very active in this community through the rest of their lives, honestly. So my mom's very involved with the music and the newsletter, and my dad was on the board with Sally, and also the historian for many years. And then I was gone for a while, but I came back in 2009 when my daughter was interested in attending, and have been here since then and really enjoyed the music part of it.
Excellent. Thank you.
I'm Carl Swanson. I been involved with Unity 30-some years, and got involved because Nina and I were dating at that time, and she invited me to visit her while she was here. She was the secretary at that time, and visited, and thought it would be advantageous if I attended. So returned, and it was a interesting experience for me because I grew up Lutheran and had not been to church for quite a while, and this was, to me, a more loving message, and I liked that, and an accepting message, and I liked that, and so that's how I got here.
Excellent.
So I'm Carl's wife, Nina, and I'm really bad with dates, but I think it was probably 87 or 88, and even before that, because I came to
You came to a Course in Miracles.
Course in Miracles group that Vern and Audrey were leading, and it was here. It was in the family room, and I came to that, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 times, really loved that, and then decided to come to a service, and Lola and Dick Andrews were giving it, and they were they were dedicating, they were doing some kind of dedicating or maybe fundraising. Dick had this big board up and talking about all just how glad he was to have this building. I can't. Anyway, and then Lola did her meditation, and she had such a mellifluous voice, you know what I mean? She had such a beautiful speaking voice. And I was like, I was hooked. I just wanted to come and listen to her do that meditation. I'd never had that experience before.
Yeah,
So that was, and I guess I've been here since.
excellent. And Sally?
I'm Sally Eccleston, and Lola came to a seminar. I was a consultant, and she stayed and said, I'll take you to lunch if you come to church. I said, what church? And she said, Unity. And so I said, well, sure, I can do that. She said, well, I'd like to have you observe because we're having a little problem here. We haven't got another minister, and people aren't staying. I said, well, we have to show them that we're friendly with them, And so I came, I brought my daughter. Her name's Paula Land. And I brought a friend who only had 6 months to live, and I was taking care of her. And when I got here and I saw this wonderful person here, I knew I was staying. I knew I was staying. I grew up in the Methodist Church, St. Paul's, and then I got married at the Christian church on the West Side, but this is where I stayed because people are friendly. We stand for good things, not just for sinning and evil and all that sort of stuff. We need peace, we need joy, we need love, we need laughter, we need to talk to people. And the love is number one, but I know that laughter brings on joy, and joy brings on smiles. And when you have a smile, you've captured somebody here.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed it, and I really was sad that I got so sick. It was 1989 when I got here, and 2004 when my back went out of it. Everything is wrong, stents and all that stuff. But I didn't always come, but I always watched you on the computer. And now the computer's dead. But that's joyful.
Yeah.
In some ways.
So I think this is a good deal to do.
Yeah.
To show, I want to see the new people get right in there and enjoy everybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And-
And I think we'll be talking more about kind of the growth and what we've seen
Yeah.
over the years. So we
Okay.
can go into that.
Well, then, how much time have you got?
Right, right. So thank you very much for kind of introducing and kind of laying the foundation of where the story begins. And for anybody who's watching this, I'm Chris Klosterman. I've been asked to be the moderator for this interview. My history is much, much shorter than what's been voiced so far. My wife and I and our family started coming a little bit before 2012, and joined officially as members in April of 2012. So we are coming up on 12 years with Unity Center of Cedar Rapids. So even though I'm helping to facilitate and moderate this discussion, it's actually a history lesson for myself, which I'm really enjoying. So let's go back to the joy part, like the part that said, okay, or the parts that made you say, all right, this is a place that I would like to have as a spiritual home. So this is tossed open to anyone. Sally got us started. What made you say, this is a place that I can see myself staying and growing? And I know that this has been touched on a little bit right now, but I think we can just pick up where those beginnings of stories had, and then let's see where it goes.
Good, good. Today's my mother's birthday, or was. Yeah, so it was a good day today.
Nice.
I almost cried. You know how that is.
Yeah.
And you all sent me a card a couple weeks ago, and it meant so much to me. I knew that that's one of the things we should do when somebody's suffering. And
Just to
because
communicate, be
your
there.
spirit just rises. these are people who like me or even love me, right? Do you still love me?
I love
Okay.
you.
All right. We're
Yeah, I
settled.
think that's what is so great about this whole community is just, that's why I like to keep coming back is the people. Like, it's such a positive, uplifting group of people that are very supportive. And I've signed many cards that have gone out to people who are at home. I think that's so great that we are able to just reach out to people and here and that are not here too.
Yeah. Very good. Any other experiences along those lines?
I'll tell you what experience I had. We had a guest coming. I was on a board, so-called board, and I was president. And we had a guest coming to do our sermon.
Sally speaking.
He didn't show up. So I ran out and got to the library and found a book by Fillmore. And I came back in and I gave a sermon because it was Father's Day. And that was my first sermon. And it was I was panicky, but I did it. And I told him, that he wasn't here, but I would try to make it. Because I think fathers are very valuable, I guess, and...
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, and that was the first mistake I made.
Yeah.
I loved Harold and Jan. Jan sang with my chorus, 54 years of chorus. And Harold and Barb Buchanan and Jan, we made, not Jan, who was it?
I think you
Give
said,
me an hour
yeah, I
or
think
so.
you said Barb.
Huh?
I think you said Barb, my dad, and you wrote the bylaws. Is that
Yeah,
what you
we
were-
did the bylaws.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And we didn't agree. One of us wanted church and the other two wanted center, So we changed how it was spoken, and it lifted some of the things out of there that were a little too much.
Yeah.
And I really felt, and that's when Jan came to my chorus.
Yeah.
And it's just so nice. You meet more people in a church like this, or center.
Yeah.
I think that, well, but one of the things that brought me here is I really wanted the community. I wanted a community, the people that you could rely on and see every week and talk to. But I also wanted a spiritual place because I wanted to get the big feeling
Yes.
of things beyond our ken, beyond our knowledge. But I didn't want a place where they said, if you don't believe this way, you're going to go to hell.
Right.
I didn't want that.
No.
So I was really happy to find it here.
Mm-hmm.
That was, and then just like you said, just loving the people. I think Jan was a big part of my life when I first came here
Yeah.
because we did the newsletter together.
Oh, yes, they did the
The
newsletter for many
newsletter
years.
and yeah, lots of fun
So-
things.
To pick up on that, so like what was the newsletter when you said you did the newsletter? What, like, because I'm used to the e-news.
Oh, yeah, no, when I first came, plus when I was the secretary, like after the first year, I was the secretary here for just a year. But the newsletter,
It was a physical
Jan, it was a
paper.
physical thing.
It had to be written and edited
Yeah.
and
And then
copied off
Jan
and
would
folded
cut up
and
Fold it
all the
and
clip notes.
mailed and
Stapled
stamped and labeled.
And that's the same way we did the
Yes,
bulletin.
Vern and I
would
helped
type
with
up the
that, too.
bulletin and then put spirit glue and put clip art on the bulletin, and then we'd fold the bulletin every
Yeah.
week.
Right.
It was really, things have changed so much, as we all know.
Right.
And Audrey, you were saying that you helped out. or
Yes, Vern
did-
and I helped with the newsletter.
It was an undertaking.
It
was
was.
a big undertaking. That
Every
was always, my
Friday.
parents were always talking about,
Yeah.
oh, got to do the newsletter, and you had to
Right.
get it ready to mail and take it to the post office, and
Yeah,
Man, so how many mailings, like, was this weekly, was this,
monthly, I think.
yeah, it was
Monthly.
monthly.
and do you remember how many were sent out? Like, How many glue sticks did you go through?
I think there were actually several hundred people on
Yes, I
the,
think
on the
a couple of
list.
hundred,
Because, you know,
yeah,
people would, even though if they weren't an active member at the time, they were still on the list. So every once in a while, they go through and try to cull the list and take people off that they didn't think were active anymore. But I think there is probably at least 200 people in there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And so knowing like that our group is expanding, and so to kind of help out, make sure we've got everything recorded for posterity, can I ask Laura and Paula to introduce yourselves and how long you've been here?
Yeah, I'm Paula Land, and I've been a member of Unity since 1989. I joined with my mom and my 2 daughters at the time.
And I'm Laura Mead, and I didn't join at any particular time. It was kind of osmosis, I think, as I've been here since the early 80s, and took some time away and then came back, and it's a long story, but but I came back, especially when my children were little, and wanted to make sure that they grew up in Unity. And so I have been back since, you know, ever since my kids were little. I haven't left, you know. I took time away earlier, but I came back because I wanted my kids to be involved with Unity.
Yeah. So just knowing that that has been kind of a thread so far, what are the things that we can point to that say, okay, I want this experience of Unity for myself and or my children or, you know, family members, friends that I have brought? What was some of the things here, the qualities of Unity that said, okay, yes, this specifically, this is something that I need or that I want for my kids? What would be some things to call out from our existence here the past 100 years?
Well, one of the things I've noticed lately, because I've been here a while, is that we're reaching out to help people outside of the church. As it gives us, they look to us as being wonderful. I'll think of another good word later. And,
That's a good word.
Yeah.
and that means a lot because they come and just see what is Unity. My neighbor moved in, and he came and showed me some tulips at my house just a couple days ago, and I said, I'm getting ready for church, and I'm writing things. You know, I have a sermon, by the way, and and he said, oh, I said Unity. He said, oh my gosh, we go to a church right across the street from you. Yeah, I gave him my garage because I don't have a car anymore.
Okay.
That's not a happy thought. But my daughter's driving it, and she's a very good driver. I'm the only one that gave up my cars.
Yeah.
I think one of the things for me was my parents really allowed me to kind of join in and be a part of their spiritual exploration and journey when I was a very young child. And so there'd be a room of adults, we would gather in homes, and they would welcome me into that. And they believed that I was able to understand these ideas and to kind of explore and learn with them. So when I had small children, I really wanted to make sure that there was a spiritual community that they could be a part of that would help them to explore their own sense of spirituality and give them the freedom to make their own choices. So that was really important to me, and that's, I think, why I invested so much of my time early on in youth and family education, because I wanted to make sure that they really had a solid experience of Unity and really an opportunity to understand what Unity is.
I like that there's not a lot of absolutes in it, that we're always willing to stand in the question.
Yeah.
Like, that we are able to question everything and think about it, and, you know, if you think one way, people aren't gonna be, oh, that's wrong, or that's right, or whatever. That's the part I really like about it, too.
Excellent.
If we were doing history here, Harold would be here, and he could tell us anything. He knew everything about happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
And we started building that. People who came, community, became part of it, not just visiting.
Yeah.
Nina, have you talked about the programs that we would put on for the kids at Christmas and various times throughout the year?
Yeah, we used
It
to
was
do
quite the production with costuming and scripts and music that she would
Yeah.
record on cassette tapes for the kids to take home and learn. It was so much fun. I
Yeah.
mean, it was like a big production.
I remember
Yeah.
the animals one, where the kids were
Yeah,
all
we're
different
all different
animals and had some
animals.
fun songs and just,
we
there
all
was some
did.
great,
And was that here and like
Yeah,
in
oh,
this
yeah,
space
right
right
up
here?
Right up here, I've got
Oh,
some
yeah.
great photos of the kids when,
Yeah.
Right.
Excellent.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad that I kind of ran out of energy doing
Oh.
that after.
oh, no.
Things have
Oh, my
evolved,
God.
I mean, it was,
Yeah.
we used to have our youth and family ministry in the community room, which is now the Sacred Grounds and Books, because we didn't have the other half of the building that we currently have. And so we would be crammed into this little space and partitioned off based on age. And so, we had a rotation of teachers. Linda Nash was one of the teachers, and we would even do vacation Bible school. And I mean, there was quite a few kids here. And we had a lot of activity going on for the kids. And the family and the kids kind of evolved over the years, which Laura experienced for sure.
Yeah. Well, and there were several families with kids, and I think that's what helped it grow. Well, you guys, your kids, and then and your kids, and there were several groups of kids. But the preschoolers were in this little tiny room. It was about the size of a closet, and then the older kids were in the bigger area. But if we were going to have a potluck or a brunch or something, there was one woman that would like hustle us up, because they had to set up for the whole brunch thing. So the kids would all have to hurry up or else cram into another side so that they could get ready and set everything up, because we didn't have the community room, we didn't have the classrooms. Everything was all in that one space, and the more kids we had, the tighter it got. And it was challenging, but we had a lot of families with kids, and so we could rotate the teaching, and we could rotate the responsibilities, and then all the parents would get together, all the kids would meet over at somebody's house in the summer, and we would just have barbecue or potluck, I'm trying to remember, we had several of those, and the kids would just run around and enjoy the space, but it was a lot of fun, because there were a lot of different families, and I think it has evolved over time, because I don't know that families have that same obligation to bring their kids to church and to grow up in a particular belief, and there's also all the online things that you can do and other types of reading. So I think the culture has changed, and families have changed. We had to deal with soccer on Sundays, and so families couldn't come on Sundays because they had all these different events and things. So our culture has changed a lot, but I'm really glad that my kids were able to be here and to learn unity principles and to learn that. And this is a side story. They went to a Christian preschool, and I'll never forget that they had the little Christmas program, and this was in the sanctuary with the big church, and the pastor or minister told these kids that they were sinners, and I just like, oh my gosh, get out of there. And because, I hear my little 3-year-old and 5-year-old, to be told that they are sinners just floored me. And it's like, no, we are out of here. And so it's very important to teach our kids that they are gifts, that they are not sinners. So
The last few years have brought us a lot of fears. That's why we need to have this here.
yeah.
She and I have the same approach for music and for acting. She's so expressive, and I always write her and tell her how expressive she is. Because that's what captures people. You know, they come here and watch you play. Remember, we did all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we hadn't done that earlier. And,
Yeah.
you know, it was just people coming to church,
Right.
you know, and, okay, I'm going home now.
Well, and then to add to kind of the series of questions that we've got, because it's been brought up kind of as themes of like what we've gotten from Unity, which we can always come back to. Like, these questions aren't shut down. So if there's something else that pops in your head that you want to add, please do. But then, knowing, like we've touched on with what we want for our kids and what they've gained from it, what do we feel needs to be passed down? So knowing that this is being recorded for posterity and is capturing segments of our 100-year history, what should be continuing on for the next 100 years? And it could be the same that you've received so far in your time here.
Wrap it around a tree, you know.
Yeah.
Run off some papers and wrap it around the tree. We never had things like that over there, or these on the wall, and they brought a lot of meaning to us. They brought a lot of meaning to us.
I think one of the things that we're you know, asked to do in Unity, in addition to being able to question, is to, our fifth principle is to live the truth we know. And when we're out in the world and living our truth, we are an example for others of how to show up as love, you know, as joy, as acceptance, you know. And I think that's a big piece of what we are kind of called to do, is to really take this into our own beings, not just intellectually, but within our own beings, and how we show up and how we treat other people. And
Love is the top,
yeah.
Yeah.
but we need to laugh. Because when we laugh, people smile with joy. And then when you have that joy, you know, you weaken your stress. And
Yep.
then you can dive in and volunteer for something. And you rise right up, and you're stronger, and you won't leave. Because
Yeah.
you're enjoying it. But you get a crown if you do the love, because it's top.
Absolutely. So this question just came in from the universe. Vern, can you tell the story of how you got here?
How I got here,
Yes.
His mother had a baby.
Well, maybe a little bit after that.
We had been in Science of Mind, and this kind of fit in with it.
yeah.
I had been Catholic, and I'd gotten away from that, and we were involved in the Science of Mind group, and then Unity kind of fit in with it. So we went to Unity, and several of our friends, like the Armentrouts, when everybody was there. So we went one time, and then that was it. We really liked it, and have been a part of it ever since.
And sounds like you taught Course in Miracles too, right?
Yes, we taught A Course in Miracles over the years.
Nice. So you were doing work with Science of Mind.
And
And-
it's kind of like Unity.
New thought, yeah.
And I don't remember exactly how I guess the Armentrouts and some other people that we knew were going to Unity, and so we thought we would try it. And actually, my daughter from Dallas was involved in A Course in Miracles, and she said, I don't have my miracles books, and she said, I wish I had them. And I said, well, we're going to Unity, and we'll just get you some books there. And so that was the first time we went, and we've been there ever since.
Wow.
That's a good story.
Yeah.
And we do watch it on TV too, so when we don't come on Sundays, so that's nice.
So that may be something to.
I'm budging into the question.
Sure.
I taught science.
Vern, I know you have a story about hearing us on the radio. And I would love
yeah.
you to tell the story
With
about
Mabel
hearing it on
Swanson.
the radio.
With Mabel Swanson, remember?
Well, I forget my hearing.
Oh, it's a long time ago.
Well, tell it. Your mom was listening to.
Huh?
Your mother was listening to.
Yeah, my mother would, we would listen to the radio on Sunday, and she'd say, you can turn it off now because my program is over. And I said, oh, I want to listen to it. So,
You like the Mabel Swanson and Unity.
yeah, Mabel Swanson
Yeah, it was on
and
WMT.
Unity, yeah.
Yes.
And at the end, they'd ask for donations and say, help keep unity in your community.
Right.
Yeah, I was disappointed when they stopped doing that.
Yeah, the broadcast, yeah.
Yeah, so probably just to kind of record the recording. So we had Mabel Swanson on WMT with the radio broadcast of the Unity services. But then, so what, and I don't know the answer, like this is not a quiz bowl, but how long was that? How many years?
She was on there quite a
We
while.
stopped in, I think, 2011.
Yeah,
I think that was about
And then I'll run
2011,
to the
2012,
So
when
we
we
went
stopped the
through-
radio broadcast.
so John
And
Cuddeback
Vern
did
was a
it,
small
and
child,
then
and he's
Lola
in
did
his
it,
90s now.
and Thelma
Right.
did it, then,
Brenda,
Yeah, it was just like a message. It wasn't the whole service.
Brenda
It
did.
Oh,
was just
okay.
like
Yeah.
recorded like 10, is it 10 or 15 minutes? I can't remember.
they would go,
Right,
they'd
yeah.
go to
Probably.
WMT and do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I used to work for them.
Oh,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
One of the longest running
It
religious
was the longest running
Right.
show at the time.
radio messages in the U.S.
Yeah, so, okay, so 50 years, at least half of our time, one of the longest running, if not the longest running radio.
I think it was the longest running, they said.
And then, Nina, you were kind of listing off who was,
Yeah,
so what were kind of the names that you remember doing it?
well, it was Lola, I mean, you know, it was Mabel, I guess. I wish I never got to hear her. I would
Yeah.
have loved to have heard her. And John Cuddeback, everybody said John Cuddeback was so wonderful.
yes.
And he died while he was a minister,
Yes.
right? So, but I
He
wish I
died
could
at
have known
Unity
him.
Village.
Yeah. And then after that was Lola and Dick, right?
Right.
And then after them was
Jeff and Anne Marie.
Jeff and Anne Marie.
Anne Marie, yeah.
And
They were
then
so sweet people.
And then
Thelma.
Thelma.
Lola Andrews,
Yeah, Thelma.
Yeah, Thelma Hembrough.
Thelma.
Thelma.
And then Brenda, and
Right.
then, but then it was while Brenda was here that we stopped doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, was there a TV component, or was it just radio?
It was just radio for a long time, but then we did
Then
TV.
there was,
TV on
yeah, we
cable.
had a cable, we had it on Mediacom cable for
Community channel.
several years. We'd record the service, we had a single camera, record the service, and every week take the tape in to have them run it.
Carl spent hours every week editing that thing.
I worked
And,
at WMT for
Yeah.
6 years.
We'd
Oh,
have
sure.
to, we'd have to shorten it a little bit and take out the pauses, if you will. And some of the jokes, sometimes, we'd,
Hide them.
Sometimes they were a little, yeah.
yeah. So, but we had a lot of feedback from people who did watch it.
We
Who
did.
caught
We did. They
caught
said,
it
I saw you.
and liked it.
Yeah.
So it was a good introduction to what Unity was all about.
Yeah. So
I
we've
think
gone.
what that represents is just, you know, we were kind of cutting edge, I think, you
Yeah,
know,
right.
technology, using the technology of the time to get the message out there. And, you know, thanks to people like Carl who have continued to help keep us, you know, with the up-to-date cameras and audio aspects of the recording. We can do live stream, you know, and now we're on YouTube.
Now
It's
with
just
the
like
computer genius.
yeah, we've just continued to evolve with technology, but I think it's cool because not everybody was using the different, you know, mediums for sharing the message.
WNT has been very good about using people, letting them use them, you know. In fact, after my son was killed, they came to me and visited me, and I was on 5 times about losing a child. And because I had worked there, but nevertheless, that's who they go to. You know, it's KGAN now, you know. But
Yeah.
it was tough. But I had been part of them for a while too.
Yeah,
And I think that's one of
yeah.
the reasons they chose me.
Yeah.
And I said, sit down, here's his picture, what do you want to know? You know, because it was hard losing your son at 37 years old. Yeah. So,
Dean goes way back to.
Yeah, let's get him.
All right, yeah, so we're going to bring in another guest.
oh my gosh.
Oh, Dean, you knew Reverend Cuddeback, right? John, yeah.
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 Just bring me some
Move this
food.
microphone over.
Yeah, here we go.
You almost like my teeth.
I didn't mean to, but.
So we're talking about how we got to unity, is that?
Yeah.
Yep, and then memories from it and experience, so.
I was teaching a class in self-esteem down at IE Tower in the top there on the weekends, and John Cuddeback called me up, made an appointment with me to interview me about what I was teaching. I was teaching when I was a counselor at Kirkwood, and he never mentioned about being a unity minister or anything. He just wanted to just talk to me, and he was really interested in what I thought about self-esteem and what the program did. And then so I obviously got interested in what he did, even though he wasn't trying to sell me anything. And so I started coming to Unity because I knew him, and that transpired into, I used to go to Course in Miracles meeting with him on I think it was every Tuesday night, and then we'd go eat and have conversations at a restaurant afterwards. So one thing I remember about him, everybody he would see, he'd shake hands with them and say, I behold the Christ in you, or everywhere he went. And then he went down to Unity Village and passed away down there. And it was sad, but it was also people were saying, show off, show off. Because he went down there. But he was a wonderful influence me and friend, and I realized I got connected with Unity immediately. It felt like home. And one of the things was, at least it would stick in my mind, there didn't seem to be any more my God's better than your God, or competition with other ways of pursuing the divine. And that was probably kind of how it started. We used to meet at Pythian Hall, Vernon and Audrey probably remember before. And John Cuddeback was one to raise most of the money to buy the land and then wait and then build the church. So he was quite a character.
Yeah, so John Cuddeback was one of the ministers.
Yeah.
Yep, in our history.
Yeah. About the third one, I think.
Yeah, he was after Mabel.
Yeah.
So it was Goldie, then Mabel, then John.
So I can always keep talking. I don't know what.
No, this is great. So when we're thinking of just this building here, and it's been brought up a couple of different times, but just to kind of get the sequence, when was this segment, so the first portion of this building, when was ground broken?
When
I
was
think
what?
it was
81.
82 or 81.
81
But
for
it actually
groundbreaking.
opened in
Would
83.
be
Yeah.
82, because we started in 81 at Pythian Hall, so it was probably 82.
And then it opened in 83, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so after construction opened in 83, and then what to me is called, in my head, the new addition, or the newer addition down here, when did that come about?
Yeah, well, Carl was,
Well, that was around 2004. And as Paula and Laura were talking about, we had Sunday school in this area and also potlucks and every other community meeting in the current kitchen area. And the kids would have to be quiet. They couldn't get too active because you could hear them in this sanctuary. So, and we had more and more children coming to Sunday school, so it really created a desire for the congregation to have an additional space so that we could have more room for the kids and also have more room for community meetings and lunches and activities. And we were fortunate at that time to have a really good membership, and they would, we convinced them that we had this need to build an addition, and they supported that and got that built, and that was really quite an accomplishment, I think.
Yeah.
You know Jean Bjornson, don't you?
Yes.
Her husband's son, the husband is dead now, but his son designed and built this place.
Gene Bjornson's
What's his
son.
name?
Yeah, Sig Bjornson.
Yeah.
Sig Bjornson
She was sitting
designed
with me.
this as a passive solar building. And, yeah.
Which at the time was pretty
It was
novel.
pretty
Like, it was-
progressive.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, we had the big barrels of water
Yeah.
Oh,
for
right,
it to conduct
right.
the heat
Oh,
from the
That's right, I forgot about
from
that.
the windows, and yeah. it was-
And that was in the community room where all the
Yeah.
kids were.
Yeah.
Then the
So
car
they were
ran
like
into the
big
library.
8 feet or more.
And they were very
Out from
effective,
the
and even in,
windows, huh?
they would put out too much heat almost.
Yeah,
There was
yeah.
not a way to regulate.
Yes, they did,
So-
for sure. And then I think, didn't we have accordion walls here before we had the windows?
No, it's just the regular wall, I think.
Because
I don't
this was
remember.
the,
I
okay,
don't
so
remember.
we did have a
I think
door
you're right.
between the chapel and
Yeah.
the community room.
Right.
The little one.
Right.
And that's part of the noise issue.
Yes, I think you're right.
You know, I
But the
used to
buil-
hear
yeah.
stories about Goldie, the very first minister. Something about how they weren't sure she'd ever really died. They thought maybe her body had just
Ascended.
ascended or something. I remember hearing that story. I don't know.
I didn't hear that one.
Do you,
We'll quit
anybody else have
messing
any
with
stories
it.
about Goldie?
No, that was before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for us.
Mabel even, so.
It was always changing. You know,
Yeah, people
grew.
come and people go all the
Then
time.
the car ran into the library out there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we
Yep.
had to change it.
I think that was the cool thing. I mean, the idea of a vision that back in 2003 or so, when you started envisioning the
Yeah,
community room.
yeah.
Right.
And, you know, then we manifested it, right?
Right.
Kind of opened around 2005. And then in 2013 was when the SUV ran into our building and put a big gaping hole on the east side in the community room. And actually, the car went all the way to the kitchen.
The
to
old
little
kitchen, yeah. the
Yeah,
little
and it
kitchen.
kind of stopped right there. So we did another kind of session with congregants to say, how do we envision the space? This is a new opportunity for us to take a look at what the space could be like for us. And so we did, and that's when we decided that we wanted to take that door out from the chapel to the community room for more soundproofing. Previously, those little rooms that Laura was referring to, that the nursery and the preschoolers were in, there was a little storage room. Those got destroyed because of the car. And so we decided to open up the entire space and make it into the bookstore it is today. And so it was just kind of cool to hear what other people's ideas were and to just know how well utilized that space is now with the lighting and the flooring that are just so warm and inviting.
That-
Absolutely.
It just shows,
That reminds me of a saying that my mom always used to say from Reverend Thelma, which is, not all is good, but good comes from all.
Yeah.
Right? So you gotta look
Yeah.
at the situation and say, what can we do with this? What could,
Yes.
the good could come out of it?
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect, yeah.
There's one thing I'd like to change. I would like the cafeteria not to be so loud.
Yeah,
We really can't talk to them that well.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
the
what,
community room,
what,
yeah,
what?
the-
You know,
More of
and
the
that should
acoustics.
be on the calendar, that, I know it takes money, but we're pretty good with money anymore. And I would like to see that part of the board to think about that. I think one time, Fern, you were talking about top of the ceiling. Remember, you were telling people about it? And I thought it was a good idea. And that you thought the same thing, you know. And
So speaking,
I'll use that opportunity to bring up, sorry to talk so much, but to use that as an opportunity to talk about one of our congregants who was very dedicated to this Unity Center. And we didn't realize, but she ended up putting us in her estate plan. So upon her passing, we received a pretty significant chunk of money that we now are able to decide how are we going to use this. And I think the important thing to remember for all of us who currently give on a regular basis is to say, after I'm gone, do I want my giving to continue? Do I want to continue to support my spiritual communities so that future generations can benefit from my gift? So I know I've put unity in my will, and yeah, and Laura's kind of the biggest proponent for planned giving, because truly, I mean, people thinking about what unity means for them in their lives, and then to be able to kind of back that up with funding after you've passed. So your money doesn't end when you leave.
yeah, absolutely. So that's in a large way why this conversation is happening, to both capture, what has been the past and how we've gotten to this point, but then also, what could the possibilities be for the future? How can we continue on so that some other group of people in another 100 years are having these same conversations? And, who knows if it'll actually be here, but, it could be. So just to also, we all wear so many different hats in Unity. Some of them are official, positions and roles, and some of them are just ad hoc, like this is something that needs to happen, or I would like to happen, or somebody saw a talent within me that I then used or I want to use. So we can start with Laura and kind of work towards me. What have been some of the major roles that you've played, or the ones that you that have meant the most to you, or may have a funny story or a fond memory with? So, and I know if we were to list out everything that we've done, I mean, the sun's gonna set right behind me.
Yeah.
But if just to kind of for posterity, capture all the different roles that you've done, I think would be a good way to continue the conversation.
Well, as I mentioned, I became involved with Unity because I wanted my kids to grow up with Unity principles. So I started becoming involved with the youth ministry, and I stayed with the youth ministry for many years, until my kids graduated from high school. So it was many years, and then I got on the board, because at the time you couldn't do both. You couldn't. Anyway, I got on the board after that and served on the board. And that was through a challenging time, because our minister left and we didn't have a minister for 18 months. So that was a challenging time, and so I did that. And then now I am back with kids, only older kids now, the teens, and just doing whatever I'm asked to do.
I think initially, when I came, I really focused as much as possible on the youth and teaching Sunday school, vacation Bible school, all of those things, and taking advantage of all the various classes and workshops that we would have. Eventually, I decided I needed to step up and serve on the board, and kind of as a way to give back. And I loved serving on the board because it really gave me an opportunity to use my strength of administration and leadership in service of the church. And that's what I love so much about Unity, is that it's those gifts that we have within us to give, and where there's energy, people can give those. So when I first got on the board, speaking of that, I was a liaison to the building and grounds ministry, and Barb Buchanan was very passionate about the grounds, very passionate about the earth, and so together with her, we created the Earth Care Covenant that you see hanging up there. And it was even published in one of the Unity magazines. So we began our earth care practices. And so I was very proud of the fact that I was a part of that. And it exists today, and it has been passed on to other people who have that passion. But now I think I'm just continuing my studies by taking spiritual enrichment and education classes, and I'm in the licensed Unity teacher program. We currently have 3 licensed Unity teachers, and they've inspired me to take that next step and become one.
It's your turn.
For what?
What have you been doing around here? What have you been doing for Unity? You were the president, I think, twice.
This is part of history.
Well, that's what they
You're a
want to
good
know,
part of the history.
as a part of the history.
Well, I remember my mother would be listening to.
Oh, yeah, you already told that.
Yeah, okay,
That's
So,
your prayer, your prayer ministry.
yeah.
yes, well,
And Vern, you used
yes,
to
we
teach classes.
headed the prayer and prayer part for quite a while, and then Jan and Susan took it over, and but Vern was the president, I think, twice, and we always did A Course in Miracles, and so I was never a public speaker or anything, so I didn't, do that much, just on the sidelines, like teach A Course in Miracles and things like that.
Yeah.
You did a lot behind the scenes too,
Well,
with
yeah.
money, counting money and
Oh, yeah,
things like that.
Yeah, and we did the kitchen for a while, when it was the small kitchen, we were the kitchen people.
Right, yeah.
Just through the years, we've just been here. Whatever needed to be done,
I think that's what is being captured here, in these comments, so that's excellent. Nancy?
Yeah, so back when I was in college, I would come and play for the service because they didn't have a regular organ. They had an organ, actually.
Yeah,
but
there was an
there was an
organist when I
organ. It
came
wasn't
here,
in
yeah.
very good shape, as I remember, but I used to do that. And then when I came back in 2009, I started working on the e-newsletter, which Annie Scholl was doing at the time, but she was transitioning out of that. So I kind of took that over for a while until the secretary then took that over. But the best part, the thing that I've enjoyed the most is the music, and getting to sing in the choir, because Nina is an amazing choir director and arranger. It's always a great experience. And I also really enjoyed singing with my mom. That was something that we could share together in the later years of her life. And it was just a really great, let's go to choir practice. And, it was a time to be together. It was her social outlet. It was so great. And, we talk afterwards, how many tenors were there tonight? we always got the report on,
Get those tenors to come.
And we talk about the music, we talk about the lyrics, which sometimes she didn't agree with.
Yeah, I know. She was so great.
But it was just great. And then I also got to sing with my daughter too. We sang together, so those are special memories for me.
That's excellent.
So I got involved in being on the board several times, because Sally, thanks to Sally. And ended up being the board president for several years, and got to be involved in the hiring of quite a few different ministers.
Including our next one coming, yep.
And
get
now
more waste
involved in
baskets.
the next one coming,
Yeah.
hopefully, soon.
Yeah.
And,
You were a good board member too, Carl.
well, thanks. One of the highlights, I guess, of being on the board was during the time that we had decided to expand and build the community center. And the pond came at that time too. It was a fun time to be involved in raising, getting people involved in it, and getting group buy-in to that, and getting it, finally seeing it into completion. That was just, to me, very rewarding.
Excellent.
Well, I've always liked religious music. I
Yep.
loved it growing up in the Methodist church. So when I first started coming here, there was a little lady who played the organ over there. I can't remember her name. Anyway,
I know who you mean, but I can't remember
yeah,
her name either.
she eventually moved away. And once she moved away, I was studying music at Co during that time. And so I said, well, let me do the music. I'd love to do the music. So I started doing the music, and that's what I've been doing. I did take 2 years off at one time when I was teaching a lot of piano students, and my son was, our son Danny was going through some troubled times, and I just didn't have the time to do the music. So there has been 2 years when I wasn't the music person here, but then that's basically it, other than the year I was a secretary here, which was,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
that was crazy.
So then if we're talking like total number of years that you've done music,
Wow. Yeah,
I did it
amazed
for
I'm
54 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you start doing something, you just don't want to stop, especially if you love it. You know,
Right.
I love it, so I don't want to stop. but-
We love it too.
yeah, I was just gonna
I
say.
know, one of these
We don't
years,
want
you're
you
gonna
to
say, get
stop
her out of
ever."
there. She doesn't know. But anyway,
Music is just the
Yeah.
part of our church that we love
yeah.
so much.
Yes.
I've never heard
Absolutely.
you make a mistake.
Oh,
Really? I'm impressed.
thanks, Sally. That was-
So how many years is it, Nina? When did you start? What year?
Being the music,
Yeah.
I think 1988 or 89, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably, yeah,
Since I've been here.
yeah. Lola was here, it was when Lola was here. Yeah.
You done?
Yep, I'm done.
Oh,
Well, let's see. Outside, I was starting a MAD chapter after my son was killed. And so I turned into working a little bit for Department of Corrections. And now I became a victim's advocate. But my health has not, I'm not as active. She played for us every year we'd bring in people who had lost people. And she came and played her guitar.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. And so it was very nice. I loved being with her. But for here, I was on the board. There was nobody left, so I was on the board. Carl and I were on the board. And
we were the board. Yep.
It did get down to about 30 people, I think.
Yeah,
and then we decided we wanted to make some money for the church. And so with Ruth, we were talking about, having stuff to sell out in the cafeteria and then having people perform in here. You remember that at all? Yeah. And so I said, would you take care of that? Said it to her. And she said, okay. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll help you. And I drew a graph for everybody who was going to do it.
Oh, I could remember that.
And she sang in a quartet and so on. And so I enjoyed that. But I also liked working with Ruth. with the finances. You know, when I was no longer on the board, my daughter was president, and she said, "Can you take one of the 4 weeks, you know, and do it?" And I said, "Sure, I like that. I was pretty good at math, but I've certainly lost it by now. I've lived too long." And but we had a good time, and I really made friends with Ruth. And so one at a time, and I had. She said, "Well, you take it to a bank," and I said, "What? I have to drive to the bank?" And I said, "Where is it?" And it was over here at Farmers, of course. So I got used to that too, and that was fun.
Yeah.
And it was fun working with her and Ruth. Ruth and you and I worked, and we set it all up. People signed up for it and all that, and I got excited about those things. It was
Yeah.
fun, and I liked the flowers they gave me.
Excellent.
And Mom, you used to give some talks too.
Yeah,
You used
yeah,
to,
you
you used to speak on
What?
Sundays. You spoke a few Sundays.
I can't hear her.
You gave this. You gave the Sunday talk quite a few times. It was always very entertaining.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The Sunday
you remember
talks.
giving
Oh, yeah, I
talks.
think about 6 or 7 of them I
Yeah,
did.
you did. They were always great.
I always brought you into it.
Yeah, well, very few times.
I'm trying to crawl the ladder above her.
Yeah.
Dean?
Dean, what did you?
Oh, hello there.
I basically loved Unity. I have kind of, when I was on I took my turn on the board in desperate times, and and I remember when Jeff and Anne Marie were having a struggle with the board, and nobody was, and they had, we did it. I had a friend of mine, and we did a personality profile and kind of brought them back together, and then they went to Unity Village where the board had said they weren't going to go, and then they went and harmonized. That was I thought it was a significant thing anyway. And
I forgot about that.
like you, I spoke a few times on Sunday, and I think five of the ministers I was coming here and working on people as a chiropractor, a healer, one night a week. And that kind of died when I had to take care of my mother in Alice City. I didn't have time to do it anymore. And I've taught some Qigong classes here. And I've been blessed a lot more than I contributed, I'd say. But that's
The more you contribute, the more you get blessed.
that's true. But I don't have any regrets. I think I've learned a lot, and my involvement was always a blessing. The people I worked with. And,
Yeah.
I just feel like after listening to the stories that I feel gratitude for the people that were there in desperate times. And when the congregation got so small that they kept going and kept,
Right.
finding ways to keep it going. I feel gratitude for them for sure.
Yeah. So that is like really kind of spoken to as we've, talked stories of kind of the pendulum swing of the expansion and, the contraction and then the expansion again. Yeah, kind of the cyclic nature of our 100 years and the fact that that's just normal evolution. The message keeps happening, but the medium might change from, radio to YouTube. So last question for us, and it's open to the whole group. And you can also, if there's something that you would like to share for the posterity of the 100 years, that's completely fine. So you don't even have to pay attention to this question. You can just go in a completely different direction. But what would, and Dean, I think you started with that of what you've gained, and I know it's come out in a couple of answers here from being a member of Unity and what it's meant. So I just invite you to think for a couple of minutes on that. Maybe it's an extension of an answer that you've given, but what has Unity given you? And we can start.
Well, I gave it away once I found out. Told him, but I had my shows on WMT and KCRG. Ronald Reagan came to visit me in the show. It was a week long, and so we got along really nice. He was Hollywood president or something, and a couple weeks later, he called back and he said, "Can I come again?" He was here doing sort of a rally or something, and for relatives maybe. And I said, "Well, yeah, if you're as handsome as you were the last time, you know." And
Who's she talking about?
and so
Ronald Reagan,
he came and he said,
Yeah, Ronald
I
Reagan.
wanted to use this program because people thought it was really great that I'm running for governor of California. Wow, from my show. Wow. Yeah, and I have since, I went to see Nixon when he was here rallying, and I was on KCRG then. I had moved to KCRG and was the first woman to do news, which didn't last long because nobody thought a woman had any kind of credibility, you know? Yeah, and they criticized the costumes or the dresses I'd make and so on. So anyway, I was supposed to be with the meet the press for Nixon at the Montrose Hotel. But the whole press had gone away. Everybody had gone away. And his aide answered the door and he said, "No, they're all gone. You can't come in." And I saw the Davenport over there with Nixon sitting with his bare feet up on the coffee table. And he said, "Tell her to come in. I want to talk to her." And so I came in and I took my shoes off. And he brought us some coffee and brownies. And I was there for almost an hour. And we had the best documentary from that, of all of the people that were there. Because when you have a lot of people crushing in, you know, you can't stay with it. You don't have time.
Right.
And I had time. He wanted to know about Iowa. He wanted to know about Cedar Rapids. He wanted to know about Lynn County. And he didn't get to do that with a crowd of people that were asking him questions.
Right.
And I was pleased with that. Yeah, and I got to talk to Eleanor Roosevelt and George Bush and his wife Barbara, and I got people who were in plays like Charles Lawton and Charles Boyer and Agnes Moorehead, which I had to put makeup on her and get her freckles out of her face and back, and afterwards, here's Boyer. Sitting like this, he's sweating. Charles Lawton was laughing with people. Agnes was fine, but Vincent Price took me and dipped me over and kissed me.
Wow.
I said, "Come anytime."
All right.
But, you know, I've had a lot of interaction with people that mean something, and I always tell them, after I got here, I always tell them about the church. And they get a lot of, you know, communicating about it.
Yeah.
Because they're out there with rallies and all that sort of thing. So I like to think about that I can help carry that through.
Excellent.
And I know
Create the ripple
my
effects.
health is not wonderful. There's that word again. And but I've been living with it since 2004.
Yeah.
And it gets pretty bad sometimes. I've learned to live with it. But sometimes I just can't make it, and I don't get here, but I watch it on the computer. So is that okay, do you think?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I've got
We're
a lot
still
of, yeah,
meeting you, and you're carrying it forward.
really?
That's great.
Well, it is, especially with the people I was carrying it forward with, you know, because, and when Dean, what's his name, was running for president, we were up in Mason City. I was doing that chorus up there too. And he was running for it, and he brought Martin Sheen with him and Rob Reiner, and four of us, afterwards, they came and got me and stood me with the guys. Here's Rob Reiner, Here's Martin Sheen. And I have a picture someplace, I think I lost it. You know, and it was kind of fun.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah. So, happiness comes because you want happiness. Only you can make your happiness.
Absolutely.
You grab it when it comes.
I think that's great. That's about all I mean, that's what I've learned at Unity. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yes. Yep.
Good try. Yeah, that idea that there is powers that you can draw upon to help you live your life and help your life be more fulfilled. And I think that it just doesn't all just happen to you from the
Right.
outside, and that God is not outside. God, when you call upon God, God will help you. And so anyway, that's what I've gained, I think, the most.
It was for just a minute, because I wanted to tell you that I got the Peabody Award for 2 documentaries I wrote and narrated and so on. And then I got with Sweet Adelines, of course, and I got a lifetime membership. So I've been rewarded, but I've also had some really tough times, and it just comes and goes.
Yep.
But I feel like I have made a living with my mouth, not with my hands. Well, my hands direct, see? And, but nothing else does it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm
go,
sorry.
no, you go.
I wanted to, I know our topic is, what have we taken, but I wanted to share an important joy, because that was one of our questions earlier, and it's something that would be good for history. Because as you all know, in 2020, we had the pandemic, and everything shut down. It was like March 17th. Everything shut down. Nobody could go to church. Nobody could go anywhere. And Unity Cedar Rapids, was already doing live stream, and you could watch online. And I will never forget, on Easter morning, everybody tuned in on their computers to Zoom or whatever we used at the time, and and everything was technologically, improvised at the last minute. I think, we were so far ahead of everybody else. But what I remember most was we were able to do music on Easter morning, and it was amazing because there was one little square of a person singing, and it's like, wow, that's really cool, they're singing. But then another square, another person came on, and then another person, and another person, and another person. And it's like, and they were all at home. They were not in one room singing together. They were all in their own homes recording somehow. And then all of a sudden it was harmony and beauty. And I will let you guys finish the story, but I get goosebumps just talking about it. It was the most magnificent, most joyful thing I had ever seen, because we were all in this pandemic and isolated and couldn't celebrate, couldn't be with each other, and then to have this amazing music and harmony from all over the place. It was the most joyful moment I've ever had in Unity. And we have all these beliefs and everything that's obviously carries on with me, but I will always remember that and how I felt. And I think it's important to share that, because people probably won't remember what's a pandemic, 100 years from now, what was the big deal?
That's
but
true.
I'll let you guys share. I don't know how you did it, but it was magic. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was a little,
fun.
it was a little tricky. Everyone had
Everybody
to, each person had to record at home, and then we had to try to sync it with the track that you sent out, so that we would all be together when you guys edited it together.
Yeah, and then
So-
Carl, thank goodness, had that fabulous editing equipment.
Yeah, that, I don't know how you
It was really, actually, it was really fun to do.
Yeah, it was fun to do.
It was very
But
fun.
it-
Well, because we didn't have anywhere else to go. I mean, we
What
were
else
at
are we
home.
gonna do,
It was
right?
a great thing to spend our time doing.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And to be able to get the results back from people sending in their performance, their
Performances.
recording.
It was really sweet,
And,
so sweet.
and then Nina helping make sure we had everything synced up just right was
Yeah, that was the hard
It
part.
How
was
many hours
challenging,
did it take
yeah.
you to edit that?
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Hours and
yeah,
hours.
yeah.
Yeah.
But what else are we gonna do?
Yeah, what else? It was a great thing.
It brought us all together. I mean,
It was inspiring, yeah.
able to bring everyone together, and it was just that sense of community that we had that was just beyond.
Well, and then we'd have coffee afterwards on Zoom.
On
I don't know if you ever did
Zoom.
that.
Yeah.
Did you ever do that? Yeah. That was great. Deborah was when Deborah was here through that pandemic, she just brought us all together
Yeah.
with that.
Right, we
She
had
was so
trivia
great.
one
And
night.
thank God for Lisa and all her
Yes.
technical know-how.
Yay, Lisa.
Yeah, oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah,
Well,
we
she's
had, I think, I don't know how much you talked about Reverend Deborah before
No,
I
we
showed
didn't.
up, but,
No.
you know, she came the first week in January, and then by the third week of March, we had shut down. So she barely had time to get to know people, just a few people. And so her efforts to really make sure we had a sense of community and that we continued on, and we used our technology and she collaborated with Lisa just a ton to make sure that every Sunday we would have a service. It was so important to her, and just the efforts that she went to like have the trivia nights and the chats after service. And I know the board, we made, well, actually she made bags for us to deliver. I think it was on.
Oh, right.
Thanksgiving.
It was at Christmas
What's
bags.
it?
Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
It was Thanksgiving.
I think it was Thanksgiving.
Oh, it was Thanksgiving.
And we got a
so
list
the
of
board
addresses.
took the list
Yeah.
and we divvied it up and we all went around to people's homes and delivered the little bags. And that was just such a great way to maintain that sense of connection with one another, even though we were so far apart. And then, of course, there's the parking lot Sunday that we had. And we thought
Oh,
we were
boy.
going to, did you talk about that?
No,
We thought we
no,
were
that's
gonna-
good to bring up.
I thought we were going to tune in via a radio station wave or something, and we really tried, and that was kind of a disaster. But it was so fun to just be out in the parking lot, you know, when things got a little more
Yeah.
freed up to be able to join together and not have to wear masks and be in the fresh air and just really enjoy each other's company and just celebrate being back together.
Yeah.
But
It was
6 feet
really-
apart.
Yeah, 6 feet apart. Oh, yes, and we had to make sure, like, where people parked was, you know, a certain distance apart. We had people
Yeah.
directing traffic, and, yeah, at first, I think we had to sit in our cars, and then eventually we got to come out, and
Right.
they set up the whole sound and system outside, so to do all the music, drug all the equipment out. Yes, Carl, I remember Carl's face on numerous occasions, going like, oh my gosh, what's going on here?
Yeah, that was a little bit of,
And always a smooth running
Setup.
operation.
really.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing ever broke or went sideways. You know?
Oh, never.
No,
Never.
no.
So it was joy all the time.
Promise not to offend God.
I was also going to mention just kind of what she was saying about community and what that also represents is that, you know, through all the different ministers we've had, which isn't a lot for 100 years, we've always had our spiritual community that we all know is our spiritual home, regardless of who's standing up at the podium. And Laura guided us through 18 months without a minister, and I think that really proved to us how strong we are as a collection of individuals, bringing our gifts and talents together and being able to just create that experience of spirit, right? Every
Yeah.
Sunday, regardless of having, you know, some consistent person at the lead. You know, we all are spiritual leaders. So I think that's so much of what I appreciate now is, you know, after having been blessed by Deborah for 4 short years, you know, we're back in the same situation without a minister and getting guest speakers. You know, people come here and they meet with us and they just have so much amazing, awesome things to say about the energy that when they come into this space, there's something special here. And every person, every guest speaker we've had come into this space says, wow, you guys have something really cool going on here.
Yeah. Feels like home.
Yeah.
Well,
Out there.
thank you very much for all of the time and the stories and all of the memories that have woven together to make Unity Center of Cedar Rapids be here for 100 years.
Let's keep unity in our community.
Keep unity in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
And Lisa and the crew, Kevin.
Ally.
Well, that was the first time for everything.
We have good